But anyways, so Joe Rogan, he's obviously a lot of people know him, podcaster. He's been doing it since 2013. He has about 5.73 billion viewers since 2013.
Wow.
So he's a huge platform.
He's got a lot of people watching.
A lot of people watching. But anyways, this is the Twitter thread that I was looking at. So shout out to Jake Rattlesnake for making the thread. This is pretty much showing all the clips through the years of Joe Rogan, how he's changed his tune to Christianity. So here's one.
And if they didn't have, you'd have to explain them, and that could get so tiresome. It would get so tiresome to sit around with some blundering moron, pontificating on what it means to have a finite life in an infinite universe, and what part of this part of this experience you really do play. What part do you play, and what is your consciousness all about, and why are you so scared of it shutting off? Those are scary, terrifying questions for the average person, and maybe some ditch digger dude doesn't need to know that. Maybe there's some dudes who have I believe there's people that have brains that work way better than mine. I've seen it. I've talked to people that I know. It's not just a matter of education. It's a matter.
Okay, so this next clip, he's literally cooking a Christian guy. Like, he is roasting him.
Be better than you are doesn't mean you believe in Jewish zombies.
I'm not going to win this one.
Well, of course you're not. This one's ridiculous. This one's ridiculous. You're talking about written on animal skins by people who thought the world was flat and the sun was 17 miles away. And you're like, oh yeah, that's going to make you a better person. It's totally, they found it in clay pots in Qumran. Yeah, they unscrolled, they had to do DNA tests to find out which piece of this piece was written on.
I feel sorry for people who have a sort of bleak, empty existence of militant
that's
atheism.
Not bleak or empty.
It's just so boring.
A lack of belief in nonsense is not bleak.
Way to look at the world.
A lack of belief in nonsense is not bleak. What other ridiculous do I believe? That's akin to Jewish zombies.
Oh,
or guys
for
who turn
God's sake.
wine and
stop it. Nothing, you know what? There's nothing more depressing than seeing somebody who you admire, who's obviously smart and clever,
who won't buy into old fairy tales.
No, just
God damn it.
Just.
And then, let's see here.
Rolls on. People are going to understand the need to have some sort of divine structure to things, some sort of belief in the sanctity of love and of truth. And a lot of that comes from religion. A lot of people's moral compass and the guidelines that they've used to follow to live a just and righteous life has come from religion. And
actually, this one, I think Jordan Peterson coming on was one of the main transition points where he's like, oh, this guy's actually smart, and he is kind of convincing me of the Bible's real.
In the civilization, you say, which are the fundamental texts? And the answer is the texts upon which most other texts depend. And so you put Shakespeare way in there in English because so many texts are dependent on Shakespeare's literary revelations. And Milton would be in that category.
To that, it seems like more bigger name folks are becoming Christian, or to some degree, like Candace Owens and Rod Schneider, Your Bride.
Yeah. Ian Hersey-Ali, Neil Ferguson, Russell Brand, Joe Rogan, Douglas
Joe Rogan. What are you doing with Joe Rogan?
Well, Joe's already, he's got a foot in the camp.
He's a lot less disparaging of Christianity than he once was, which we all really appreciate. Thank you, Joe.
Well, Joe figured it out. Yeah.
I saw this one.
go back in time once and survive and come back to the future, where would you go?
Jesus.
Jesus. What if there was nobody there?
Be even better. I get it all to myself, just me and Jesus.
No, I mean, what if Jesus wasn't there? What if you go back and you're like, I just want to go see Jesus? And you're like, okay, what time?
He'd be there. He'd probably like a DJ back then, cutting his up. He's there.
You think there's a real Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely?
Absolutely. 1000%. Want to be Egypt.
What makes you convinced?
My faith.
I mean, that's a good answer. I always wonder when people are telling stories, though, Like, how long did the story take before people wrote it down? How many times did people alter it? Just like they do with everything today. I got to imagine that at a certain point in time in history, they probably didn't tell the truth about a lot of things. And we take those things, tell them through oral traditions, have them written.
Okay, so this next part, it's actually crazy because there's a guy named Wes Huff, and he's been blowing up in the past like 3 or 4 months because he had this big kind of argument and debate with a famous atheist argument debater guy, Billy Carson. And so he actually went on Joe Rogan this last week. It just released, and it's like crazy because the guy Wes Huff, he's like a crazy scholar dude. Like the dude's a genius. Like he studied like all the original manuscripts of the Bible. He's read the Quran 3 times through. Like it's just what this guy does. And so he actually just went on Joe Rogan, and I want to show you guys it. So he's talking about the resurrection of Jesus, which is so interesting.
They think it's over. Like they're like, he's dead. We're done.
Yeah.
And then they go from 11, scared men, because Judas committed suicide, scared men in an upper room to completely overhauling the Roman world in only a couple hundred years because of this claim that they say they saw Jesus resurrected. Like there's something different that goes on there, that they're like, this is a miracle, right? Dead people don't usually rise from the dead.
So what is your personal belief when it comes to the resurrection? What do you think happened? Do you have a belief, or do you just try to interpret the text and try to see what is the message?
Well, I think, so as a historian, I do think it is a historical question. You have a guy who objectively lived, he objectively died, and then individuals close to his inner circle claim that they see him not dead.
Right.
Again.
This is a highly unusual activity.
Highly unusual.
Right. So, but it's hard when you're dealing with illiterate populations, you're dealing with thousands of years of time, you're dealing with an oral tradition, and then you have us sitting here talking about it in 2024, trying to figure it at the end of 2024, trying to figure this out, literally the end, last couple of days. It's very difficult for anybody who thinks of themselves as an intelligent person who's secular to even entertain the possibility that someone died and come back to life.
And I get that. But we've already talked about the fact that we don't think that the only thing that exists is matter and motion. We as in you and I, right? Like we believe that there's something else going on in this world that's a little bit crazy.
There's something else.
And that to, I think, exclude that, I think excludes something that you're kind of putting blinders on for. And you do have, I mean, you're right in terms of all of these ancient conventions and the ways that things were spread around. But the Gospels are written in the lifetime of the eyewitnesses. And they're written in this period of time where you have groups of individuals who could have fact-checked those things. So
how do you fact check someone coming back from the dead?
Well, how
many people saw his body, right?
Well, Paul says that 400 people saw him all at once.
400 people saw the crucifixion?
No, saw the resurrected Jesus. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15, Paul says that Jesus appeared to the disciples, and then he appeared to 400 people all at once. I mean, if we read the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of Luke and Acts, so same author wrote these both documents, he says that Jesus was walking around teaching them for 40 days after he was resurrected from the dead. And so these are written within a time period when you have people who would have seen Jesus's ministry, who were there, say, at something like the feeding of the 5,000, who could have been able to verify or debunk some of these things that are being said. And you go from a bunch of scared guys who, because Jesus wasn't the only messianic figure who arose and claimed to be the Messiah.
Right.
There were a number of individuals both prior to and after Jesus, but they die and the movement dies with them.
Do you think it's possible that he didn't die? And do you think it's possible that they thought he was dead? Because that does happen. There was actually a case very recently where a guy was about to be harvested for organs. They thought he was dead, and this guy started moving again and came back to life. It's a very, very bizarre case because his family had been told that he was going to be harvested for organs. They were preparing for that.
Yeah.
This guy comes back.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot about Roman crucifixion. And we know that, and we know that they did their job well.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, if you look at, say, very skeptical biblical scholars, like non-believing, atheist, agnostic Christian scholars, they will say if we can know anything about Jesus, like they'll cast it down on a lot of the things that we read about in the Gospels in terms of the actual historical Jesus of Nazareth. They'll say one thing we can be sure of is that he died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate, because we have not just multiple attested documents that we refer to as the New Testament, but Roman and Greek and Jewish writers refer to that claim afterwards and talk about the fact that you have this guy, and it's mocked within earliest Christianity. So one of our earliest, in fact, not one of, the earliest depiction of Jesus on the cross is called the Alexamenos Graphido.
Okay, so that's the clip.
Dang.
So what do you guys think? Is Joe Rogan turning to Christianity? Obviously, we saw like the beginning clips where he's like cussing, calling Christians morons, and like there's way
saying
more.
Jesus was a Jewish mummy,
Jewish zombie.
or whatever.
What do you guys think?
So my answer is absolutely yes.
I think he's going to be a Christian. I just think it's because Joe Rogan has such a personality where he's really in every conversation. I think it's the reason why people like listening to him so much.
Kind of in the middle.
Is because yes, but it's also because he's always asking questions,
He's
searching
seeking-
for truth.
Yeah, he's seeking truth.
What is the truth on this topic? And he will go on it forever. And I think because he does that so well, I think he's eventually going to come to the point, especially with smart people talking to him like Jordan Peterson and this dude. Especially, I would love to get Cliff Neckel on there.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
That'd be a good one. But here's the thing that my take on Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan, yes, he's seeking truth. I see him as doubting Thomas in the Bible. Okay? He's a depiction of that. You know, here's the resurrected Christ in the last, chapter,
Very skeptical.
the last chapter of the book of John, and Jesus comes and he shows himself, and they're all afraid.
Yeah.
And to the first person that Jesus shows himself to is doubting Thomas. I mean, I call him doubting Thomas.
Yeah.
He's like, show me the nails. Let me see. And he sees through the nails.
Yeah.
That's what Joe Rogan is doing. Show me the nails. Could he have, made up that he was resurrected? Really? You're doubting that he resurrected? Have you doubted that we're sitting here on earth and the world is going around? Think about this, okay, guys? We're sitting still right now. But the world, the earth is going 66,000 miles an hour. And we don't feel that.
Yeah.
And there's no God.
Yeah.
We're much more than just,
I don't even know how they comprehend a universe that's never stops growing.
right.
No, I actually.
How do you
No,
comprehend
I
that
actually
without
heard in
thinking
this
there's a
interview,
God?
Wes said people they don't believe in a virgin birth, like
But they-
Mary but they
right.
believe in a virgin
universe.
And then you could see Joe Rogan and like kind of clicked in his head. He's like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
like that makes sense.
Yeah, and people talk about the universe all the time. Maybe the universe is talking. Yeah. What? It's not a lot of... What? God made the universe. Yeah. God made that. And, I got to go back to something so simple. My Zion, he's 5 years old. And yesterday, he's wearing this outfit.
Yeah.
The Superman outfit. It's all fake with fake muscles. And he jumps on the bed and he starts just strutting. Look at my muscles. And he actually believes it. He believes it. His imagination is there. And God says, come to me like a little child. Because it's actually so childish to believe in God. And God is inviting us to not look at all these questions. And I appreciate this video. I appreciate Wes. I would love to talk to him because it's so amazing. But God is still inviting us to believe in like a childlike faith.
Well, almost like the Kid Rock clip where he's like, so why do you think Jesus is there? He's like, my faith.
Yeah.
And then Joe's like, it's actually a pretty good answer.
It takes faith to believe in this.
Yeah.
But it takes faith to get in a car and drive. It takes faith to think about this. Every single morning the sun rises and every single night the sun comes up.
Sometimes.
The sunset. No, the moon comes up.
Yeah.
The moon comes up and the sun rises every single day, and I can take it by faith that it's going to happen tomorrow, and it's going to happen the next day after that, and I have to believe, and I believe that in the book of Romans chapter 1, that God created creation for the very purpose to showing who He is already. So we don't need much more proof beyond the trees and the leaves and the flowers.
Not at all. Like you're sitting there and like you're just looking at rain. The rain comes down. It helps all these flowers and these plants, and then the animals eat the plants, and then they're fed, and then we kill the animals and eat the plants, so we're fed, and then they drop an egg, we eat the egg, and then there's a bird. It's like, dude, the amount of cycles that are so specific.
Right.
There's no way you could actually sit there and be like, there's so much order
Right.
in the way that everything is designed, and it works so well, and it's so like,
and it's so intricate and it's so amazing.
you're telling me we're sitting there and you're telling me, oh, where do we get oxygen from? Oh, it comes from trees. There's tons of these trees that are just oxygen coming through, and you're just like,
No, but the most glorious thing that I can think of is a baby being born.
Yeah.
Like being in the birthing room, okay, at a hospital, and my wife is delivering a baby, and I'm like, whoa, that's a human being that just came out of you, that I supposedly had some part to.
You're just the dough.
Yes.
Dough in the
But
oven.
I'm like, it's so beautiful. How could this be? God.
there's so much order.
This is God.
It's crazy. You're telling me this little liquid into this woman makes this child,
Right.
and then that child produces liquid in like 20-something years, and then he has a child. Dude, what are you
And they
talking
kind of look like you and they kind of talk like you and there's some DNA thing. Come on, this is too good. I believe in God based on what I've already seen. I don't need much.
But I like the way that is it Neckel? What is it? His last name?
Cliff Nettle, I think.
Cliff Nettle, whatever. The way he says it is he's like, I've never seen life come from non-life before.
Right.
Like he's like, you can't find it ever. You're not a plant, not a human, not an animal. You can't find a single thing where life comes from non-life ever.
It's true.
So
So I say, Joe Rogan, keep seeking, keep doubting, because eventually you're going to find.
you're
the
gonna
truth.
find out
Yeah.
that his word will not return void.
Yeah. Yeah.